There is something quietly magnificent about a classic bus. No, the sleek coaches of today, but the older ones, built in an era when engineers were still experimenting with shapes and systems nobody had tried before. Some of those experiments were brilliant, some were baffling, and some were so strange they almost feel like they came from a different timeline entirely. Today, we count down 10 of the strangest classic buses ever built. Vehicles that looked unusual, performed unexpectedly, or solved problems in ways nobody else had thought of. From double-deckers that could fit under a bridge to rear-engined curiosities that changed the industry forever. These are the buses that history almost forgot, and the ones that deserve a second look. Let us begin. Number 10. The Stout Scarab Bus, United States, 1930s. Most people know the Stout Scarab as a strange little van, designed by William Bushnell Stout, a man far more comfortable in an aircraft hangar than an automobile factory. But fewer know that Stout applied the same radical thinking to bus design, producing a small, rounded rear-engine people carrier that looked less like a bus and more like a beetle that had grown to an uncomfortable size. The design philosophy was borrowed directly from aviation. Stout believed a vehicle should have no unnecessary structure, no wasted space, and no drag. The result was a body that curved where others were flat, a floor that sat lower than almost anything else on the road, and an interior arranged more like a lounge than a conventional bus. Power came from a Ford V8 engine mounted at the rear, unusual for buses of the era, which freed the front for a low, flat floor and a wide windshield. The Stout Scarab bus never entered mass production. It was expensive, unconventional, and arrived when the American bus industry wanted durability and familiarity, not experiments. But sitting in Spence 1 today, you understand immediately what Stout was trying to do. He was building the future. He was simply a few decades too early for anyone to appreciate it. Number 9. The Leyland Atlantean, United Kingdom, 1958. Before the Atlantean, the standard British double-decker placed its engine at the front, beneath a long bonnet, with a separate driver's cab and an open rear platform where a conductor collected fares. It was familiar, it worked, and Leyland threw all of it away. Leyland moved the engine to the rear, beneath the floor at the back of the bus, and redesigned everything around that single decision. The result was a flat front, a wide entrance door controlled by DC, the driver alone, and the possibility of operating without a conductor entirely. This was not just an engineering change, it was an economic revolution for transit operators watching labor costs rise. The engine was the Leyland 0.600, a 6-cylinder diesel producing around 125 brake horsepower. No, impressive by modern standards, but perfectly suited for urban service, and positioned in a way that transformed the passenger experience. The interior was quieter, the floor lower, and boarding considerably faster. Early examples suffered from reliability issues. Rear engines ran hot, gearboxes were fragile under heavy stop-start use, and some operators struggled with the transition. But these were the growing pains of something genuinely new. By the time Leyland refined the Atlantean, through successive generations, it had become one of the most successful double-deckers ever produced, setting the template. British bus design would follow for 50 years. On the outside, it looked ordinary. Underneath, it was a quiet revolution. Number 8. The General Motors New Look Bus, United States, 1959. If you have ever seen an American city bus from the 1960s, low, rounded, silver and chrome, with a distinctive corrugated lower skirt and a gently curved windshield, you have seen the General Motors New Look Bus, and if you think you already know it, look again. GM developed the new look through its truck and coach division with a remarkably ambitious brief. The bus had to survive decades of urban service, project confidence in public transit, and make financial sense for operators watching ridership decline. The solution was a body built largely from stainless steel and aluminum, materials that resisted rust, required minimal maintenance, gave the bus its distinctive silver appearance. Power came from a Detroit diesel two-stroke engine, typically the 8V-71, producing around 220 horsepower. Two-stroke diesels breathe differently, rev differently, and produce a high mechanical whine that made every new look bus identifiable by sound alone, long before it came into view. The air suspension system delivered a ride quality that was genuinely advanced for the era. The flaw in the new look story is one of context. General Motors was simultaneously lobbying cities to reduce transit investment and promoting the automobile as America's future. The new look bus was America's, a very good product in the service of a questionable strategy, but taken purely as a machine, durable, sophisticated, and engineered with real care. It was remarkable. Mechanics who have worked on mechanics, them still describe the experience with something close to affection. Number 7. The EEC Routemaster, United Kingdom, 1959. Ask almost anyone to name a classic bus, and they will say the Routemaster, the red London double-decker with the open rear platform and the hop-on, hop-off tradition. It is the most famous bus ever built. And because it is so famous, it is easy to assume you already know everything about it. You probably do not. London Transport designed the Routemaster from scratch in the early 1950s with extraordinary engineering ambition. The body was aluminum rather than steel, saving weight and improving fuel economy. Before either was fashionable, the construction was integral, with body and structure working as a single unit, much like a modern monocoque car. Independent coil spring front suspension delivered measurably better ride quality than its leaf-sprung rivals. There was power-assisted, hydraulic braking, and one of the first fully automatic gearboxes on a British bus. The AEC AV590 engine produced around 115 horsepower, enough to carry the Routemaster through London traffic with calm authority. The open rear platform allowed fast boarding and created the iconic T8 image of London transport that endures to this day. Its flaw was economic. The open platform required a conductor on every journey, which became unsustainable as labour costs rose through the 1970s. The last Routemasters were withdrawn from general service in 5, though heritage routes still operate them today, standing on that open platform as the bus moves through KC2T, between you and the street. It is an experience no modern bus can replicate. Number 6. The Neoplan Skyliner, West Germany, 1967. There are buses that carry passengers, and then there are buses that make passengers feel as though they are traveling through the landscape rather than merely across it. The Neoplan Skyliner belongs firmly in the second category, and when it first appeared in the late 1960s, the coach industry simply stood and stared. Neoplan was founded in Stuttgart by Gottlob Orter, a man who believed coach travel did not have to be uninspiring or visually anonymous. The Skyliner was his statement of intent. A double-deck coach with a panoramic upper deck that gave passengers an unobstructed view of the world, wrapped in a body styled with the same aerodynamic care that the German automotive industry applied to its dyed cars. The upper deck offered a view that made long-distance travel feel worth doing for its own sake. Power came from MAN or Mercedes-Benz diesel engines producing between 280 and 320 horsepower, number necessary to move a vehicle of this size at motorway speeds without laboring. Air conditioning, a rarity in coaches of this era, was available, along with air suspension, on all axles. Were practical, the height-ready access to certain form and cheap price was price plus putty bogt gax was seeing, more complex mount, significantly higher than competing products. But none of that diminished what the Skyliner represented. It was, and remains, one of the most visually arresting vehicles ever built for public transport. A bus that understood the journey itself could be extraordinary. If you have traveled on one, you know exactly what I mean. Number 5. The Citroën Type H bus, conversion, France, 1950s. There is a particular kind of vehicle that achieves strangeness not through grand ambition, but through quietly practical decisions that accumulate into something unlike anything else. The Citroën Type H is that kind of vehicle. Originally designed as a light delivery van in 1947, the Type H was built using corrugated steel panels, a construction method borrowed from early aircraft, that provided rigidity without a heavy internal frame. The result was a van that looked assembled from the skin of a large mechanical insect, distinctive, slightly industrial, instantly recognizable on any road in France. Through the 1950s and 1960s, French operators began converting the Type H into small rural buses, serving villages where a full-sized bus would have been impractical and unaffordable. The conversions varied enormously, but the best of them were surprisingly pleasant. Windows cut into the ribbed panels, bench seating along the interior walls, and a sliding door suited to narrow village streets. came from a Citro engine, Production D226 PM, while the Bauer came from a Swaz. Hinti use a column for Intibrayer was matic word. Rural France, where the alternative was often walking, it was exactly what was needed. The charm of the Type H bus lies in its improvised quality. These were not factory-built transit vehicles. They were adaptations made by communities to serve their own needs. Some were elegant. Some were rough. All of them were genuinely useful. A few survive today, often surrounded by people who have never seen anything quite like them. Number 4. The Berliet Huliers Panoramique, France, 1950s. Paris in the 1950s attracted tourists in numbers. The city's transport infrastructure was not designed to accommodate. The established sightseeing buses were adequate but uninspiring, conventional vehicles offering conventional views of some of the most beautiful architecture in the world. Someone decided this was not good enough. The result was the Berliet Huliers Panoramique, a sightseeing bus with a wraparound glass upper structure that gave passengers a panoramic view in nearly every direction. The curved front windshield swept backward, giving the bus a forward-leaning, almost predatory way when viewed from street from inside, coming into view with a clarity that conventional bus windows simply could not provide. Ring challenge was real. A conventional bus is strotal contripitini of the body Sampine, redesigned the upper deck framing entirely. The large glass surfaces also created heat and condensation challenges, demanding careful ventilation management. The Berliet was competent, Willius visual engine, a day for Cison for sitting speeds. What made the Spensidwally strange was Berliet's visual impact. Inside and outside, from the street it looked like a greenhouse on wheels, and from within, it felt like the city was being presented to you as a gift. A small number survive in preservation today. They are rare, and they are extraordinary. And if you encounter one, take a moment to appreciate what someone once believed a bus should feel like. Number 3. The Bristol VR, the Portaloo bus, United Kingdom, 1980s. The Bristol VR is not, on the face of it, a candidate for a list of strange buses. It was a competent British double-decker produced from the late 1960s through the early 1980s, powered by a Gardner or Leyland rear-mounted diesel, operated throughout the British Isles in large numbers. Reliable, familiar, slightly unglamorous. But certain examples operated by Stagecoach in the 1980s earned a nickname that tells you something important about how passengers experienced them. Stagecoach in its early years was famously economical. The company acquired second-hand vehicles at low cost, painted them in white and orange livery, and put them into service with the minimum expenditure to keep them roadworthy. Some Bristol VRS arrived with bodywork in need of serious attention, panels that did not fit properly, windows that admitted drafts, floors that shifted slightly beneath your feet on corners. Do refer to the caustic to elite GT to rent, verbent sound environment that passengers like to ting inside. The comparison was unkind but by several accounts, not entirely inaccurate. And yet the Bristol VR had genuine merit. The Gardner 6LX engine was legendarily durable. The running gear was straightforward to maintain, and the basic structure properly maintained outlasted every reasonable expectation. No, every vehicle earns a nickname. This one earned one. It has never quite shaken. A small, odd form of immortality for a bus that was, underneath everything, more capable than it appeared. Number 2. The Greyhound Cinecruiser, United States, 1954. The Greyhound Cinecruiser arrived in America at a moment when the country was redefining long-distance travel. The interstate highway system was in its infancy. Commercial aviation remained a mind, luxury. And Greyhound commissioned General Motors to build a bus that would make the journey itself feel like a destination. The Cinecruiser was a double-level coach, not a full British-style double-decker, but a vehicle where the main passenger deck sat elevated, with a lower rear section accommodating a lounge, restroom facilities and luggage storage. The raised deck gave passengers an elevated view of the American landscape, the Kansas plains, the Colorado mountains, the endless Texas desert stretching to the horizon. The interior matched the ambition of the exterior. Seats reclined, air conditioning ran throughout, lighting was soft and indirect. Greyhound marketed the Cinecruiser not as a bus but as a luxury experience, competing directly with the rail travel many Americans still prefer. The mechanical specification was complex. To Detroit, diesel 4 to 71 engines were coupled through a common transmission, producing a combined 290 horsepower. The arrangement was ingenious, but demanding to maintain, and early service revealed reliability challenges that required continuous engineering attention. Many examples were eventually re-engined with a single, more powerful V8 diesel. The Cruiser remained in Greyhound service until the early 1970s. A small number survive in preservation today. Seeing one now, with its curved upper windows and stainless steel trim gleaming in the light, it is impossible not to feel the ambition that went into its creation. This was Arpas Thafgod, Santiwas, offering something of NAGD. Number 1. The Turtle Top Terra Transit, United States 1980s. If any vehicle on this list deserves the title of genuinely, irreducibly strange, it is the Turtle Top Terra Transit. And to understand why, you first need to understand the problem it was trying to solve. By the 1980s, American transit agencies were under serious financial pressure. Large conventional buses were expensive to buy, expensive to run, and often nearly empty on low-demand routes. The pound industry needed smaller, more economical vehicles that could serve communities full-sized buses could not reach affordably. Turtle Top, a coach-building company from Indiana, answered with a solution that was practical, economical, and visually one of the most unusual transit vehicles ever to enter American service. The Terra Transit was built on a Ford van chassis, a commercial platform familiar to every mechanic in the country, with affordable parts available everywhere. Onto this, Turtle Top fitted a raised AB-Myent roof body with proper transit seating, additional windows, and dramatically improved headroom, producing a vehicle that looked, from certain angles, like a transit bus, and from others, like a vanless, with serious delusions of grandeur. The Ford V8 petrol engine produced around 150 horsepower, more than adequate, and far cheaper to purchase and maintain than the diesel power plants of conventional transit buses. Fuel consumption was higher, but the purchase price was so much lower that total operating costs often favored the Terra Transit on lightly used routes. Its strangeness lies in the gap between its ambitions and its origins. It wanted to be a transit bus. It was built from van parts, and in that tension between aspiration and practicality, it found a purpose that more sophisticated vehicles could not serve, quietly, honestly, and without any expectation of recognition. In its own way, that is remarkable. These 10 buses tell a larger story about what engineering truly is. No, always the pursuit of perfection. Sometimes it is the attempt to solve a real problem with the materials available, the budget permitted, and the knowledge on hand. The strangest vehicles are often strange precisely because they were honest about their constraints and did something remarkable within them. If any of these surprised you or reminded you of a bus you had forgotten, I would genuinely enjoy reading your thoughts in the comments below. There is an entire world of mechanical history, rarely makes headlines, and the people who keep that knowledge alive are the ones who share it. If this journey was worthwhile, consider subscribing. There are more stories waiting not fits expects by me. Was worth them Hunter Kate and Poe in them. Until next time, keep looking carefully. The most interesting things are almost always the ones that nobody noticed.